people are willfully blind to counterfactuals that don't suit their particular narrative. And that's a very easy thing to fall into as a human being, because we don't see reality as it is.
So it seems like today people are very tribal, and that seems to extend into the institutions, which are tribal, or what we'd call probably political, right? Being political instead of seeking truth, seeking position, power, advantage of some sort.
And so the agencies themselves accrue power to themselves, right, as opposed to serving the interests of the constituents that they're, tasked with serving, or the people that they're supposed to help. So that, there's that power dynamic as well. Yeah.
And because of that, they do things that are either deceitful or untruthful or not in the best interest of their constituents, and therefore they lose trust, and which polarizes people even more, because some groups see conspiracies everywhere, and other groups who agree with the political decisions are like, well, they've got my interests at least, so I'm all on board. And what we end up seeing is that maybe there's not one overarching big huge conspiracy, Illuminati type conspiracy thing, but when interests converge and you get these systems that can be manipulated, or systems that by happenstance have kind of landed the way that they are and advantage the people that they advantage, those things get solidified, and you get this cyclical revolving door effect, which just perpetuates and exacerbates, and maybe grows the problem over time.
And I would just add, it's oftentimes not out of a nefarious intention, right? But there's a willful blindness to those things that aren't in service of my interests, right? And I think to some extent that's human, but we see it permeating our institutions at the moment, where people are willfully blind to counterfactuals that don't suit their particular narrative. And that's a very easy thing to fall into as a human being, because we don't see reality as it is. I mean, even our visual system, is we were talking about, or you were talking about detective work, right? I mean, it's notorious how faulty human vision is in terms of seeing things that aren't there, or not seeing things that are right in front of you. And so we do the same things in our minds in terms of the positions that we hold, and maybe the reasons we should reconsider holding those positions in the first place.
Yeah, there are all kinds of mental illusions and things that go on. So confirmation bias is something that happens a lot, but then I don't know if you're familiar with change blindness, but where you kind of just see what's normal, and you don't notice the change even when it's drastic. I don't know if you've ever seen that, the basketball one, where they're all
I love that. I love that with the guy in the gorilla suit or something.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, nobody ever gets it. I didn't get it, and it's astounding that you can miss something so obvious.
And the things that are right under your nose, you tend to start ignoring as well. And that's one of the things that, so like right now, I've got a lot of clutter in front of me on the desk, but my brain spends a certain amount of energy just ignoring it, right? Whereas if I'd actually gone and cleaned it up, spent some real energy doing that, my brain wouldn't have to constantly spend cycles ignoring, the clutter. So
right. It's amazing. Like, our house will be cluttered. We are not super disorganized, but we just, we have different priorities, I guess. And I don't notice the clutter until it's like, hey, we've got company coming over today. When did the house become such a mess? It's like that trigger of, oh, we have company coming over today, helps me to see things that I didn't see just a minute ago.
And that's fundamentally one of the challenges with bureaucracy, right? So one, the clutter accumulates, but two, we've gotten used to ignoring a lot of what's there. So we don't even see, or people within the bureaucratic state don't see the impact that that clutter has on everybody around them, or on the, sort of on how things would otherwise operate if they cleaned it up a little bit. And there's also this situation where there's not a lot of reinvention, right? It's like this is what we've been doing. We've been doing it for a long time, and you don't necessarily recognize the reasons that people started doing that thing in the first place. And the situation on the ground may have changed such that it doesn't make sense to be doing that anymore. So, one for instance there that I'll leave you with is, FDA started as a small number of people, and basically, I believe it was called the Poison Squad. This is back, late 1800s, early 1900s. These folks were tasting, like trying out different commercial like foods and seeing if they got sick. And if they did, they'd do some further investigation, right? And at that point, with a group that small, it made sense that you had to bring everything to you. But anymore, the size and scale of what we're doing at an institution like FDA, there are so many people there, they could actually go out and visit all of the facilities directly. They wouldn't have to bring everything to them. And so fundamentally, when you hit certain scales, the way that you should operate in being most efficient and most effective might change. And I would argue that we've gotten to that kind of a situation right now with a lot of our institutions, where they continue to do the things the way they've always done, but the reasons they used to do those things in the manner that they did them, it's no longer the situation. And we should be rethinking how we go about doing business at some of these federal agencies, because they can be a lot more effective if they go out instead of bring everything to them.